Hi there, and welcome to Uplevel U Music's The Metronome Game. This is considered for right now, a free resource, or eventually it will not be free. It'll be a low-cost resource. Not exactly an online course, but this video, not really a module, but like explanation video, will make sure that you know exactly how to use this the most efficiently and the most effectively for your students. So, just a couple of little introductory things. Who is this for? So this is for mainly instrumental students that are just about any level, though there will be a limit to that, and you're going to see that partway through this video, uh, where you want to have them be able to use a metronome effectively and without frustration. And this is the gamified system to allow students to start with the easiest of tasks using a metronome and allow them to progress themselves, of course, with your help into using the metronome very effectively with their own repertoire that they're currently using or currently studying. So, without further ado, let's get started here. So, let me share my screen and I'm going to be showing you basically what the course looks like and what is included with it. So, here we are. Okay. All right. So, the metronome game. And the objective here is really to help your students love using the metronome. I'll give myself as an example. I used to hate using metronomes. I do actually recall a point when I was in about fourth grade. I was told to use a metronome, and I got so frustrated I threw it at a wall. Didn't break it, didn't break the wall either. As a matter of fact, the metronome still works. It was one of those like boxes, you put the 9 volt in there. Yeah. Now I use an app actually. I do have one of those fancy ones, kind of like in the graphic over there, but I just use a simple app off the phone, nice free one, and Google has one too. So if you Google the word metronome, it'll come up. So everybody, no exceptions, has access to a metronome at this time. All right, so let's take a look. What are you getting with the metronome game? Okay, so you can see the video that I'm recording right now isn't there yet. Everything is pretty much handled in these sheets right here. Okay, so we have custom sheets for piano, string instruments, wind instruments, and snare drum. Snare drum representing just percussion students. So let's get into each of these, and I'm going to show you basically what it means, just to make sure that you understand what the prompts are saying. And none of these are like supposed to be really, really super strict. You have a lot of flexibility as the teacher to play around with different metronome markings and the tasks themselves. But at least this can get you started, especially if you're like, no, I really don't feel like thinking this. I just want something that's going to transition my students to using metronome. Great. So this is put together in levels, so that way students can get the satisfaction of feeling like they're leveling up, just like in a video game. Gamifying the system, that's what we want here. So level one is just simply going to be like tapping the steady beat with the finger. So actually, I am going to get my metronome ready here. I'm going to use my phone just because day to day when I'm teaching, that's what I'm doing. All right, so that's what mine looks like. Hopefully you can see it and there's no weird glare. Okay, so I'm going to put that on so that you can hear that in the background. I like a nice high-pitched clicking sound. Okay, so the first thing is basically just like tapping a steady beat on a surface with the finger. Okay, after that, tap a steady beat with a pencil. That's because we want there to be some sort of intermediate contact point so that it's not just your finger, but you're using something, okay, to mimic the use of an instrument or pressing a key or something. Play one key at, so I use Q equals 80, or Q equals whatever number, okay? Quarter note equals, okay? Obviously, like, you could, like, draw the quarter note or whatever, but I just wanted to keep it simple. You can certainly integrate these into cut time or, like, a subdivided type of steady beat and rhythm. I would do like an E equals and like an H equals possibly at that point. But we're keeping things pretty simple for this one. 80, 120, and 60 are really, really good starter tempos for this kind of thing. 80 being just like, well, actually, I was just using 80 just now. Um, 80 being kind of like a nice mid range tempo, 120 equaling what fast means, and 60 being slow without being just too tedious. Slower certainly is more effective, but like, are you using 60 all that or below 60 all that often? Okay, so one key, just plunking the key at that speed. Play C and D switching. This would be like a good C position type of thing. Okay, at the different speeds. Play C up to G and back down. And at this point, between levels 9 and 10, we're going to be using both right hand and left hand. We don't want one hand getting stronger at this than the other. Okay, so this would be like C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C, that kind of thing. Hands together at that point for level 11. One note in repeated eighths to the beat. Okay, so here's our beat. Da, 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 da. Because I mean, we don't just play quarter notes to metronome rhythms, right? So repeated eighths, switching two notes, repeated eighths, do, 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 do. C up to F and back down is triplets. So if triplets are too far for your beginner student, you've got a couple of choices. You could stop there and start to integrate if you can, or you could just teach them what triplets mean. It's not that hard. Da 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 da. Okay, that's all. It's not that hard of a task. And then when they learn triplets for real, they already kind of have a little bit of background in how it feels. All right, so then we get into level 17th, 16th notes. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, there's this up to G. C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C, D. I can't do that that fast, but you know what I mean. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that allows C to fall on the downbeat, so that's really helpful. Okay, so right hand, left hand, hands together. When we get into level 20, you do number 19 as quarter notes with alternating hands. C, C, D, D, E, E, F, F. It's actually really helpful. Okay, and then after we get past the alternating part, we have some interesting things happening in levels 22 through 33. Exercises 1 through 4 at different speeds. I'm going to show you those exercises a little bit later on in this video because they are custom exercises that I created specially for this, okay? Obviously, exercise 1 is the easiest, exercise 4 is the hardest. Pick according to what your students' ability levels are. A lot of times teachers put off using metronome until students, they think they can handle it and they can play harder things. So there's quite a variety here at level. Then levels 34 through 40, then we start to really, really integrate. So instead of taking like just a little simple selection that's created for this, we want ultimately them to be able to use a metronome to learn and refine the current pieces that they are working on. So that's what levels 34 through 40 are. An easy section of the student's current piece, and I changed up the numbers here. And you can also see for the exercises, I went down to 50. Okay, 50, 75, and 100. And then a medium section at 60. So it's at least just get the foundation down, get the student to the steady beat, to the metronome. Level 38, medium section of current piece at tempos, and then this would be just the difficult section, the section that really needs it the most. Okay, so that way there are goals that are relevant to what's happening in lessons. All right, so that's for piano. Okay, let's take a look at strings. You're going to see a lot of things that are the same. So tapping, open strings, playing D and E, switching, D up to A and back down. Play D and A strings back and forth, the open strings, just so you can get some string crossings on time. Play each open string up and down. You can kind of play around with order if you want. One open string and repeated eighths, switching D and E as repeated eighths, D up to G as triplets, D up to A and back down to 16ths. You can see a lot of things that are the same as piano, but definitely relevant for the orchestral string instruments. Okay. Quarter notes with alternating hands. I meant alternating strings. Okay, and then exercises 1 through 4. And then easy section of current, and then medium, and then difficult, okay? With the different metronome markings. Okay, so that would be strings. Winds, finger, pencil, one note, two neighbor notes, okay? So because certain letters of notes certain letters of notes for different instruments are going to be easier than others, okay? Like a G to an A is easier on one instrument than another, okay? So at this point, you get to use your expertise. What notes would you pick being the teacher of such wind instrument, okay? So that's where you could be like, okay, so this is saxophone. I'm definitely going to use G and A. All right, great. Uh, Flute, let's do D and E flat. Keep it simple, okay? Because obviously, keeping it simple at first is a really good idea because the objective is to play with the metronome, not to get harder switches down. But getting harder switches down is not a bad thing a little bit later on. So use your best judgment, okay? Um, First five notes of a major scale, up and back down. Play two notes that are challenging skips or jumps, however you refer to it, back and forth, tongued, slurred. Great for some of the brass instruments as they're slurring between partials. One note and repeated eighths to the beat. Switching to neighbor notes. Play first four notes of a major scale, back down as triplets, tongued, slurred. And then level 16 is level 15, but play the first two notes of each triplet slurred and then one tongued. Okay, ta 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 ta, kind of like that. Okay, so we're getting some really good articulation drills in here too. And then some with staccato, because staccato obviously takes longer, so good to work on that. Exercises 1 through 4. Easy section, medium section, difficult section of current piece. All right, so there's your wins. Very proud of this last one for snare drum. And let's see, and I actually just finished this last week. I'm very, very excited to work on this version, the newest version of the metronome game with some of my drum students. I have two of them that are actually like looking forward to it, which I think is kind of nice. And what we have is the finger, pencil, tap at certain speeds, eighth notes, opposite sticking, 16th notes, right hand lead, left hand lead, paradiddles. Paradiddles are easy to get to a beat compared to other rudiments. Eighth, 16th, uh, eighth, 16th, 16th pattern. So this would be your da 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 da. Okay. 16th, 16th, 8th. So this would be like da 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 da. I went really, really specific with this. That one, for example, is I call that blueberry. Or that was wrong. Berry blue. Berry blue. Berry blue. Berry blue. Berry blue. Da da day 16th, 16th, 8th, 16th. Okay. And then we get into rolls because every snare driver has a hard time counting rolls. They just want to keep rolling and rolling and rolling, even though it's supposed to be like a certain number of beats long. So this is really, really good for that with the metronome in the background. And then we have the custom exercises and current repertoire. All right. So that's how each of the metronome game formats work. But what about these exercises that we're talking about? So we'll take a look at piano here. This is exercises 1 and 2 on a sheet. I have them just as two separate PDFs. And you can see that this is easy. I don't even have very many like descriptive markings. It's a straight up C position with just your regular 1, 4, and 5, 7 chords. Okay, and then we have metronome game exercise number 2. I got 3, 4 in here. It's not a bad idea, right? Okay, some use of eighth notes, broken chords, but not anything really difficult. Okay, so this is later beginner type of stuff. Okay, let's take a look at exercises 3 and 4 for piano. All right, here we've got new position, or maybe a lack of position if you want to call it that. A little bit less consistent rhythms, some use of rests. We call these shut the door rhythms, dotted quarter note, eighth note rhythms. A couple of them in there. Okay, so we could start with a little bit of really easy moving. And then metronome game exercise number 4. A lot of broken arpeggios through here with a nice bass line. And then one thing that this exercise has that the others didn't is use of dynamics, because Learning something to a perfect steady beat to a metronome also needs the details in there too. Okay. And they sound very, very nice. They are pleasant. All right, moving on. So those are the piano ones. The rest of these are only one sheet. So this is for violin specifically. You can see that the keys are picked so that they're very reasonable. Okay, D, G, and then C, the first three. There's some bowings in there. Um, eighth notes, a little bit of basic slurs. Okay, and then you're going to start to see some bowing patterns that are a little different, more difficult. Obviously, not for the beginner, but you might be able to pick something out of their method book that could suffice if you really wanted them to get all the way through the levels. Okay, so different types of slurs. I'm pointing to this one specifically because one thing that I notice when I teach string instruments is that when there's a slur and a long note and then a short note, the long note tends to get cut off. So that's a really good lesson there. Got a lift in there, so they have to time the lift. And then metronome game exercise number 4, we're in the key of F, and 16th note rhythms, slurs, definitely different articulation patterns. Okay, this one I think is really important, 16ths to quarters. Okay, so that's going to be for violin. Gotta have viola in there. As a school orchestra student who played viola, I always felt bad when the violists were left out, so I had to make sure they had their own. Now, the tunes of these instrument to instrument are very, very similar. There are some subtle changes. You'll see that when we get to the one that's for like trumpet and horn. Clarinet, I feel like increases the range a lot faster, but horn and trumpet do not. So you'll see the tessitura and the range of notes being a lot less, just to keep things a lot more reasonable. But you can see that this does resemble the violin one a lot. Okay, moving on, cello and bass. Okay, so you can see we're in bass clef. Okay, so a lot of the stuff is still present. A lot of the lessons that are being taught are in there. Okay, uh, now we're up to snare. All right, so we've got nice, easy, basic quarter notes and eighth notes and rests for exercise number 1. Use of different 16th note patterns for exercise number 2. Then things start to get very interesting for exercises 3 and 4. Got some use of rolls, that pattern, because it's important, starting to put in some differences in accents. And then things get really mixed up here. And New Score really liked my slur symbols here to be blue. It's okay. When it prints out, probably most of you will print it black and white, so I'm not too worried. Got some flams in there. Different types of rolls. That long roll that you got to make sure you count. Surprise eighth notes in here. So yeah, this one's kind of meant to mess up the snare drummer a little bit. All right, so those will be really nice. Okay, then we have flute. Okay, nice, reasonable keys for flute players. Some slurs. You can see this one really resembles the violin one we had. Okay. And then clarinet, trumpet, horn. This is what I was talking about. So, nice and easy based off the C scale. Lower notes that aren't too low. Different keys. But the range for this one actually is a lot less. And the range was actually messed with a little bit in this one too, because these aren't supposed to be range builders. These are not supposed to be exercises that are supposed to really help to extend the range for students. It's meant to help them with metronome. So gotta keep the focus going. Okay. And then we got a couple more. Saxophone. Good keys for sax. Good ranges for sax. Okay. And I took out a lot of, besides articulation, I took out some of the dynamics as well, just because, again, I'm trying to keep the focus. They're already thinking enough about speed and steady beat and articulation. So I did actually kind of nix some of the dynamic markings. You're welcome to put in your own if you want, though. Okay, and then the last one is for low brass. Again, good, reasonable keys for them. Nice ranges. Got some big jumps in there. Got to do a little bit of that, especially by exercise 4. Okay, so those are all of your custom exercises, and that's basically what this comes with. It comes with obviously the video here that I'm working on to make sure that you know what to do with this, the metronome game for each type of instrumentalist, and then the supplemental exercises. All right, so um, I hope you enjoyed. I hope it's very, very helpful and informative for your students. And I hope that you start to really, really see some huge improvements in the use of metronome with your students. Good luck, and let me know how it goes.